The storm hit at least 3 houses outside of Dallas Center very hard. But when you talk to the homeowners, you never guess a tornado just came through. You can see the river is spilling over its banks, turning this small road into a river. Another reason these companies want to come here to Iowa is the same reason that brought hundreds of movie makers here several years ago. The state is offering huge tax incentives. Tim sees so many people on Memorial Day weekend that he almost needs 2 of himself. How you doing? These words are what's getting searched on Google right now. It's proof that tech companies are watching you, and you might not have as much privacy as you think. It's still too early to tell how many more troopers lawmakers will be willing to pay for, and that's if they decide to pay for them. How they get these DNA samples is very simple. They just take a cotton swab, put it in your mouth, rub it around on your cheek, take it out, and put it in this box so that it doesn't get contaminated. One of the more controversial parts means schools might look less like this and a little bit more like this. Parents who homeschool will not have to file as much paperwork. They'll be able to teach their kids driver's ed and also teach up to 4 unrelated students. That means a house like this is essentially turned into a private school. If you want to stay on Pat Carter's property, you gotta work. She's busy all day picking up branches because when she pulled up to her house Sunday night, her grandson told her,
"Grandma, you don't have a roof on your house." And I thought, oh, surely he's wrong. But there it is.
The high winds blew away her shingles, snapped off branches, and uprooted a huge tree, leaving a gigantic hole. I'm 5'11", and I'm almost at the deepest point in the hole, and for me, the ground almost goes over my head. Neighbors started showing up right after the storm clouds cleared to help her clean up the yard.
The neighbors came to help, which is what happens in the country. The neighbors come to help.
Friends laid a tarp on Pat's roof and plan to put something more permanent there before we get more rain.
Just drips right inside.
Pat's not sure how much the damage will cost her because she's not even sure what's left underneath all the trees.
She's got water damage in almost every room.
The 100-mile-an-hour winds destroyed many of her belongings, and yet did nothing to her spirit.
I wouldn't have lived this long if I'd given up easy.
She admits she'll miss the extra shade, but since luckily no one was hurt, everything else is replaceable. You know, all of you guys seem very chipper.
It's spring and it's Iowa, and the wind blows.
You might think a place surrounded by a 6-foot barbed wire fence with regular security checks would be a safe place to store equipment. But sometime between Friday and Sunday, someone managed to get inside Des Moines Public Works supply facility without breaking a lock.
Someone apparently was able to scale this fence.
Burglars stole air compressors, other tools, and smashed a window to get into one of the buildings where they used a drill to empty out the vending machines. In that same building, they made their way to the employee lockers, breaking off the locks and taking personal items, making sure to douse the padlocks in oil to wipe away their fingerprints. Once the robbers decided they had enough stuff, they put it all on a loader and rammed it through this fence. But then they had a little bit of a problem. You can see they make their way down the hill, but then once they're at the bottom, they run into a big, muddy ditch. The loader gets stuck in all this mud, so they grab a John Deere Gator, put on the stolen equipment, and escape.
These are our tax dollars paying for this, so I could be putting this money into permanent repairs someplace on a street or a curb or a sewer. But now it's going to be to replace this equipment that's been stolen.
Public Works estimates about $15,000 worth of equipment went missing, and the burglars caused about $10,000 in damage.
We're all paying for this, and getting that back can be helpful. So if they see it out and about, call the police.
Here's a look at just some of the lobbyists, interest groups, and concerned voters clamoring for lawmakers to lend them their ear, usually so they can ask them for money. As you can see, a lot of people want a lot of things. And on Wednesday morning, Iowa's lawmakers gave us a more detailed idea of what they consider important.
The budget target is efficient.
Senate Democrats and House Republicans released their target budgets for 2014. These are not final, but tell you where the session is headed. Republicans' target budget is about $6.4 billion. The governor wants $124 million more than his fellow Republicans at $6.5. And Senate Democrats set theirs at $6.9 billion. That puts the Senate and House almost $500 million apart.
We're trying to expand the middle class in Iowa, and we have a unique opportunity now with the way the revenues are coming in.
Democrats want to expand health care coverage and provide 4% allowable growth for Iowa's schools.
The truth is the governor's budget costs us more on health care.
Republicans plan to give back the extra money in the budget to taxpayers and keep spending low because of what they called unstable times.
The drought, the sequestration, the budget cuts that the federal government is dealing with, now is the time to be very careful and cautious with the taxpayers' money.
Where will some of the money come from to make that education plan happen? Because that demands at least a slight increase.
Yes, it will. And we are doing that over a 5-year period as well. And we've built all of that in. So in the budget that I presented to the legislature, we have the resources over this 5 years to both reduce property taxes and reimburse local governments and provide additional money for our education systemic reform to improve student achievement.
Okay, but there's nowhere that that'll be made up?
Well, we've already made it up by controlling spending. Remember, we have 850 fewer employees than we had 2 years ago.
Robert Bailey heard about RAGBRAI all the way down in Louisiana.
I had always heard when I was like in my 20s about these crazy people in Iowa who like to ride across the state and drink beer and have a good time.
Back in 2005, he bought a brand new bike. Then, just 1 week later, his new bike became useless. Robert lost both his legs in an accident with a machine that cuts brush in pastures. Robert then replaced his legs with 2 prosthetics.
Bit by bit, I've really learned about the only thing I can't do is get on my tippy toes to get something off the top shelf at Walmart.
His support group in the Challenged Athletes Foundation pushed him to start riding in RAGBRAI.
I had heard they were still doing it, and it's gotten bigger.
He rode his first 3 times on a large tricycle as he recovered. This year, he decided to challenge himself and bike on 2 wheels, 472 miles.
So it does have a lot of meaning for me to finally really be able to do it.
It's tough to pick Robert out of the crowd now. He looks like he's riding just like everyone else, which for him is the whole point.
I had an amputee once tell me that when I walk, I'm an amputee, and when I ride, I'm normal. And so in very many ways, riding this Rivendell means I'm normal again. And I think that's part of it. It's sort of a graduation ceremony.
Robert also plans to run a marathon and learn to use his prosthetic legs to swim so he can eventually finish a triathlon. In Knoxville, I'm Alex Schuman, ABC 5 News.